Welcome to Evening Tea, a slow after bedtime space for women who are exploring motherhood differently. Here we talk about the things you whisper about with your closest friends, the tender, the intuitive, and sometimes controversial. From pregnancy, home birth, to postpartum healing, vaccines, natural health, motherhood, parenting, identity, and everything in between. Nothing is off the table here. So pour yourself a cup of tea, take a deep breath, and settle in. I'm Kaya, and this is the conversation that you've been craving. I always imagine these conversations happening at night when things slow down a little bit, uh, when you're not trying to get anywhere, when you can just be with what's already there. Lately, I've been noticing how much my body has been communicating with me. For me, it's like moving every day, moving intentionally. That feels really good for the space where I'm at right now. There's something so grounding about listening and hearing what my body is asking of me. And at the same time, there are parts of listening to myself that still feel very raw, especially like trusting my decisions, trusting my instincts, not second guessing everything or sitting in hesitation for too long. So this conversation feels very close to where I'm at right now. Not because I figured anything out, but because it's something that I live with actively. Tonight I'm sitting with Yita, and we're going to be talking about inner communication and self-care, not as concepts, but as lived experiences. What it's like to try and to listen to your body. What it's like when that comes easily, what it's like when it's harder. There's no agenda here. Just a real conversation unfolding in its time. Yita, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, a little bit about myself. I am a mom to two yummy kids, a boy and a girl, almost 5 and 2. I am an intentional liver. I live with intention. I'm a crunchy mom. I homeschool my kids. I'm a creative. I really tried to lead my life in a creative way. I think being a creative kind of like I have that sense of intentionality. Like when you're creative, you're hearing the like what wants to be created. You already have that inner communication. So it's really something, maybe they both go hand in hand, like being the creative and the person that I am. Like the creativity has kind of helped open that space for me to really be with that communication. I'm almost 32, went to a seminary of the arts. Um, yeah. Alumni right here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Representing.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. If you ask me
I
like specific
love.
questions, I could kind of like tell you more, but
Well, we'll
like
get
that's
into
in a
specific.
nutshell. Yeah.
We'll get there. When you think about listening to your body, what comes to mind first for you?
What comes to mind when I think of listening to my body? That's a great question. Not always is the communication like loud. Sometimes it takes like the body communicating something multiple times until you actually hear it and you're like, "Oh, that's what you're saying." That's what comes to mind.
Had that with my trip. Like my body was screaming for a break for months. And like I finally heard it and I was like, oh, I need a break. Like, thank you.
That's what I
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
It's
Like that's
like
literally.
you think it takes a lot of time.
Can you remember a time when trusting yourself felt hard, even when you were listening to something inside of you?
That actually just happened now. So, right before our call, this past few days have been like really rough emotionally for me. And I've been really sitting with my emotions. I've been writing. I've been like more cocooned in myself and in my space, kind of like withdrawal, almost like a mini shutdown, but just not. And it's been very hard. And I've watched how that translated to like even socially, like people checking in on me and I'm like leaving them on unread because I just didn't have that capacity to answer. And it was like hashkacha practice that we had to move our call to today because it's like I feel like a significant amount of time has passed and like I've had the time to process more. So anyways, it's like we're coming to the time of our call and I was like, okay, so I'm still holding on and being with like everything that's emotionally intense and sitting with me. And I'm like, how am I going to show up for this podcast? Like, how am I showing up for this? And I was like, I want more of me into it. I was like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? And I decided I was like, I have headphones, I have music, I have this favorite song that I'm obsessed with right now. I could listen to it on repeat and I put it on and I started dancing and it like put me in the space to like co-create and feel that different kind of energy. And then like the communication now in my body is like there's so much more room for me to be expressed. So like taking that step from where I was before I danced and trusting that like I can move the space even though it's uncomfortable, even though I'm like not necessarily getting anywhere, but I am because I'm taking one tiny step forward. And it wasn't an easy step to take. It's not always an easy step to take, but I did it and I'm happy I did.
I'm so happy you did. What did that like moment in between, like the hesitation from how you were feeling before to like starting to move and starting to dance? I'm curious how you could describe that shift.
It's it's like feeling awkward for a little bit. It's like being okay with being in that awkward space of like feeling like a kid that's tantruming, but also a kid that wants to be happy. It's like no, I still want to sulk, and then just like okay, but I also kind of want to be loved. And so it took like a few seconds of that, but like that kind of like with the movement, as the movement comes, the shift in perspective, the shift in energy.
Did you notice that shift more emotionally or more physically? Like once you were able to get through that awkwardness?
I want to say neither. I felt it energetically.
Okay. I love that.
Emotionally, it's just like whatever was bigger than me and taking up more space than me is now less, and there's more me in the space.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so important to like notice and listen, like even through the awkwardness. It's
Yeah.
it's so important. um, I have been noticing in these last like couple months how much I've been letting my body lead, like even with movement, with like intentional movement every day, whether that's walking or working out or whatever that looks like. I've been like so much more intentional with letting my body tell me what my day will look like. I'm curious if you feel that way too, like letting your body lead. And if you do, like where it started for you.
So I'll start off with where it started, and then we'll go back to where we are today. Um,
Sounds good.
it started, I want to say, if I had to like go back to a time, I mean, everyone has communications in their body, but we don't understand them. Like we talk English and I understand what you're saying because we're talking the same language and everybody's body has a way of communicating with them, but not always do we have the understanding of what our body is saying because it's communicating in its own language. So it takes learning your body's language, right? Being still, being in tune, being able to have the space to listen in. I'll say for myself that as a child, when we go through experiences that are could be traumatic, could be not traumatic, but like our childhood experiences in how we're raised, sometimes we have our body's communications and then we have the override of like as simple as like, oh, are you finished eating? Just one more spoon. It's like, but my body is telling me that I'm finished and I don't want one more spoon. So in that case, I have the like residual of like the Holocaust trauma of like, you have to finish the food that's on your plate. And that's like something that now as an adult that I am learning to uncouple and to really listen to, like, what is my body saying? So going back, we all have our body's communication, and it's communicating in our own language. And basically, as time has passed and evolved, and as I've grown in myself, I've come to really hear and listen and be attentive and attuned to what is my body saying. I used to be the girl that was a hypochondriac. I got like an itch and I was like, oh my God, a spider bit me. I need antibiotics. We need to get to a hospital. Like, I need care stat. And like anything small was like massive for me. And my body went into panic. It went into like nervousness, anxiety. And like that wasn't a healthy way of my body communicating with me. Like that was me taking my body's communication of like, oh, something feels wrong. And I was like, something is massively wrong. We need attention right now. And it's funny because looking back, I was like, oh, my body was telling me that I really needed attention. And that's how I was like meeting that for myself. So there was that. And that kind of like, my mom asked me a question. She's like, what are you going to do when your kids get a scrape? And like, a what? I was like 9, 10, 11, 12 maybe even a little bit older. And I was like, I don't know, like I'll figure it out then. But basically from that experience, kind of had to like learn how to let that go, and build a sense of like, okay, so we're not in threat. We don't need to fight, flight, or freeze. Like we can bring some safety into the chat. And the more I brought safety and the more I brought regulation and the more I brought tools into my picture, the calmer I was able to get, the more clear I was able to get. And I was like, oh, my body is giving me signs and signals, and I can hear them. And the more I got accustomed to hearing it, the more connected I got to myself. So how do I find myself in letting my body lead? I actually say I'm quite confident. Thank God. I'm very blessed to be in the space that I'm in with the tools that I have. It's taken like I'm blessed to have my parents that are both somatic practitioners. So their knowledge they've passed to me in like the most beautiful way. So to have that as also part of my foundation has been so helpful. It's been a journey to allow the trust and the safety to allow my body to lead me. It does take practice and it does take effort and it does take intention, but I would like to say for a good like 80-90% where we're working together and moving forward together.
I love that. Is it easy for you to be confident in letting your body lead?
I think with time, like time has built more confidence. Sometimes I need support. Sometimes it takes like going to a session, like having a somatic session and letting your body like the balance of you and your body, like, you know, letting go of what you don't need, making room for clearer communication. And sometimes it's really not easy to allow the body to lead. Like right now what I'm working through is there's something that wants to come up and there's also something that doesn't want to let it up. And so being in that space of like it's like it's real life and it's intense. Like feeling is also feeling the not so yummy and delicious things. And that's a challenge. And in that, like, you know, in that part I'm not confident in letting my body lead because there's a part of my heart that like doesn't want to go in and to feel that. But it's all part of the process, you know, and with time, like going back to what I did, like being with that space, allowing myself to feel, like I really believe that like being human comes with the full gamut of emotions, and it's not just happy all the time, and like I've been doing a lot of learning, become a lot more spiritual. Like I am a spiritual person by nature, but I have stepped into another spiritual realm where I am actively learning Hasidus, Torah, and I'm applying that to my life and I'm seeing the world through that lens. And it's been such an amazing and profound journey. And there's a lot of introspection when it comes to that. And it's like, how am I showing up in the world?
How do you sit with the uncertainty or the confusion when you're not feeling confident and listening to your body?
Okay, so if you would have asked me this question a year ago, you would have had a totally different me. And I don't even know how the other me would answer the question, but I'll tell you that I'm a spiritual person by nature. And I have become so much more spiritual in the last few months, like actively learning Chassidus, Torah, and applying it to my life. So when there is uncertainty or overwhelm, I have noticed actually that learning brings a sense of calm. Like today in my space, it's also so much hashgacha pratis that we're having this conversation now because it was like the contraction and like this is the expansion. Like I actually had to use the tools that I have inside to help me blossom into a new space. And I can also talk about my hard time. Like this space of being in communication with yourself is not only through like only the beautiful times. We go through hard times and it's like, how are we going to be in those hard times? Are we going to let ourselves lose ourselves in the process? Or are we going to like one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly and say like, I'm going to be with you. I'm here and I'm hearing you. How can I be there for you? Um, and this is all like talking to yourself. But and so going back to the what supports me is like this morning I was feeling really overwhelmed and I was like, this is already day 2 or 3 of like these really big heavy emotions just sitting with me inside me, just feeling the intensity, feeling like darkness. Like sometimes you just don't have clarity and you're like, Hashem, why? And you don't have the answer and you just have to sit with that. Like, this is just the circumstances of right now. And I opened the sitter and I davened. Like, I was like, okay, so what are we going to do? And I was like, okay, we'll daven. And I davened and I noticed how when I daven that there's breath. And with every breath comes a yawn. And the more I daven, the more centered and aligned I get. The more whatever I was dealing with has the opportunity to not take up as much space now as it did before I started davening. So really, like that spiritual part of me is a lot of my compass, and it really like it's blossomed. It definitely as spiritual as it was before. This is like next level, but it's also more aligned and so much more in my truth. And it's also taken time to like come to this space.
I love how God plays such a huge role, not just in listening to your body, but also in like coming back to center and like coming back to baseline. It's something that I have to remind myself of more often because there's so many times where I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm sitting with so many hard emotions, like literally what you were describing of like sitting with hard emotions for a couple days. For me, it lasted a couple weeks. And literally after 3 weeks of being in this like hellish space of like trying to listen to my body, but also going through it, I made like a conscious effort of like let God,
Yeah.
and it literally like if what I was feeling was up here, it just like melted away. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was the most like supernatural experience I've had in a very long time.
Yeah.
It's incredible how powerful spirituality can be, and like just trusting in God in that moment. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
We are co-creators in our space, and so like if we're going to create our own narrative and then just swim in that narrative, then that's all we're going to see. but like when we let God in, we become co-creators, and it's not only about us. Like when in high school, when you're taught about Bittel, and like my mom when we were growing up always spoke about Bittel, and we're like, okay, like let's take a chill pill for 1 second. But then like now as an adult, I was like, there's so much beauty and there's so much truth into that. And like I want to give that over because like what we're going through sometimes it's not necessarily even about us. There's so much more to it. It's nuanced, it's faceted. Um and we can access a higher connection, a deeper connection, and like take the stress or the overwhelm of like I'm doing it alone and it's only me. And it's like no, you're a co-creator. Hashem is right there with you, and he's holding you and he's hearing you and he's figuring it out. And I think it's so I'm like we're talking, and as we're talking, I'm noticing I was like as I've come to have a deeper, more authentic, clear communication with myself, the like I'm having a repair with my relationship with Hashem. And that relationship that I have is so much clearer. And it's beautiful to like see that.
Wow, that is beautiful. Literally, like, okay, this is gonna sound funny. There's obviously a concept of free will, but there's so much of a concept of Hashem guiding our lives to the extent that literally what we're talking about right now, I wrote a song about this in seminary. It was my mid-year presentation. And
No way.
before our call, literally before our call, I wish I was kidding. I was on my Google Photos and it came up of like, I don't know, 8 years ago today. And it was a video of me just like dancing in our dorm room. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good memory. So I went onto like my photos of that day and like that week. And I came across the video of me singing the song at our mid-year presentation. And like, for whatever reason, for no reason, like what reason did I have today on February 4th, 2026 to go back and look at like my seminary mid-year presentation before our call? And like, we're literally talking about God and like letting him in. And like, the song was literally called Just Let Me In, and it was about God.
I love that.
I have to send it to you because like it's what we're discussing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Very synchronous. And the
Yes.
more you let Hashem in, the more you'll see Hashem in your experience. So it's like it's a twofold.
Yeah, exactly. Back to listening to your body. What, if any, role has movement or stillness or both, and in what capacity, played in how you hear yourself?
I'm definitely making time for myself, doing the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron with a group um, has been life changing. I want to say that I've been blessed to have and hear and like understand my body's communication for a long time. And like it's funny because I talk to people and I like tell them about where I'm at, and they're like, "What? Like how? Like how do you have that? Like it's a sense of awareness that like it's a gift, not everybody has it. Sometimes like for me it's an easier thing to access, and for some people it takes a lot of practice. For some people they're like my body has a voice. There is a communication, there is a language to learn, and it is. So I have been blessed to have that. Over the years, I think different things have brought me into different spaces and like different levels of depth within myself. I want to say now it's breath work. Very blessed to have somebody very special to me, like guiding me and holding my hand through that space. And it's really like something that I'm very passionate about. And even before I was doing breath work, I was very passionate about breath, like the idea of neshima, that it is part of our neshama, and like coming into that, like Hashem breathes new energy into you, into the day with moda'ani, and like that's something that I've been doing I took upon myself to do, to be very mindful of for about a year. And um for me, for right now, that's like something that's centered me. Movement is something that I don't have an easy time with, but I have seen how it's played a role in like my movement emotionally and how things were able to process through. But it's not easy. Like I was walking every day, like towards the end of the summer through fall, and then once the really cold weather hit, I was like, that's it. It's not for me anymore. So that
Relatable.
hasn't been easy. And before that is going to the ocean, the movement of the waves, and just like I'm a Pisces, so it is my pure solace. Like it literally gives me life. I could be in the worst mood and then I'll go to the ocean and like for an hour, nobody talk to me, have my music, I'll have my art journal, and I'm good. And I come back and I'm like literally a new person.
I love, I love.
So really taking time for myself. Like if I had to like make it one big umbrella, it's like there's me time. I'm having this thought process come in of like taking time for yourself, right? So we ourselves first, and then every other identity comes after. So then you are a wife, then you are a mother, then you are a daughter, and so on and so forth. So often it's easy to lose our sense of self and identity when it comes to like having kids. And there's a sense of like you're also listening to them and you're also hearing what is their body's communication. What are they communicating with their bodies? Giving them the tools to hear what their body is saying and to be able to communicate that. And it's just, it's been like we're talking about it, and I'm like having this thought process of like, it is so important to take time for yourself because there is so much going on. And coming back to center, like you can only give from a full cup. So taking that time for yourself is very important. Like having room for that communication to come up.
I think that's going to be the title of our episode. Like, you can only give from a full cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that so much, literally every day. Like, filling my own cup creates space to fill my family, my children, my friends, the people around me. It's not just like important, it's grounding. Like, it
Yeah.
brings me back to like, hey, reminder, take care of yourself. You'll be able to be a
hmm
much better friend and a much better mom if you are happy.
It's like, whose voice
Yeah.
are you listening to? Are you listening to your house's voice that says, Chaya, do the dishes, Chaya, do the laundry, Chaya, take the garbage out? It's like,
I'm not
yes,
listening to
there's
any of those voices.
like, yeah, it's like there's so many voices that go on, but like there's the voice on the inside. And when we listen to the voice on the inside, then the voices on the outside they're not as intense. It just takes like, a level down.
Yeah, exactly. I love how you frame that. Yeah. As we're talking, I keep coming back to like trust and like trusting that you're listening to the right things in your body and trusting that you can stay with yourself even when you don't fully understand what you're hearing. And I'm curious if you've ever experienced that kind of like hesitation in what you're hearing from yourself and what feels supportive for you in those moments.
For me, writing, I definitely have had that space of like, what is this communication? Because I'm not quite understanding. With time, things evolve and things show themselves. Like, sometimes the communication comes up and it's like one word, and you're like, okay, so let's talk about more. Not always does the body have the safety to allow it to come up. And that's okay because your body is there to protect you, and to make sure that you're safe. So just like a tool that I've had is and that I've used for, I want to say, since 2012. So well over 10 years, is writing. Like the more I write, like I write every day. I have my notebook. It's filled. Like we're almost at the like successful whatever is like finishing a notebook. It's like, oh, yeah, go buy another notebook,
It's a new
another
milestone.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have them. I could look back at like when I was dating my husband and see, and there was a lot of back and forth in that writing, but like, I ended up gaining clarity through it. So a lot of when things stay in here, they can ruminate and they can get bigger and bigger. And then we make stories, and then you can lose yourself in your own head and in your own heart. But when you put pen to paper and you say, this is what I'm feeling, and it's like, these are my feelings of what they are right now, this is what's true to my space, and just dump it, and you kind of build a relationship with yourself in a way of like, okay, my feelings are here, and I might not have all of the things figured out, and I might not understand, and I might be really overwhelmed, but this is what's here. And just being able to dump everything on paper and not think anything of it gives you that sense that you can trust yourself, because like, this is not for anybody else. Maybe I'll share some of it, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll understand more in a week, maybe in a day, maybe in a few years, maybe never, and that's fine. But it doesn't stay in here. It goes. It just gets put out.
It keeps it fluid. It keeps it
Yeah.
flowing.
Yeah.
Like it almost kind of like keeps things from getting trapped because you're keeping it in a constant state of flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not letting any one thought or emotion sit with you for too long because you're putting it out on
Right.
your paper. I love that.
Right. It doesn't become your identity. It doesn't become who you are. Like, you stay
Right.
you, but whatever is going on within you, around you, involving you, it all goes on paper. And then
Right.
you come back to who you are. And there's more space for that.
Do you have anything else that you want to add before we close?
I do. I
Go for
do.
it.
Something that I was gifted, that I'm so happy that I was gifted, because like, I always used it for my parents. They're like, okay, it's time that you have your own. Is this book, these two books. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She basically she healed herself from cancer with affirmation, and then she writes how powerful our minds are. And when the communication on the inside is of negative and overwhelm, it creates negative ripples in the body. So when you have a cold, or when a person has a cold, it is because there's some form of mental confusion. Like, have you ever noticed that, like, when you have like a big move or something like big and overwhelming comes that challenges your whole thought process, that like, the family is prone to get sick. When seasons change, there's grief. People are coughing, like, I wish I had a different kind of summer. So that's basically in here. She has like a whole entire list of like any ailment you could possibly think of, where what the probable cause is, and what the new thought process should be. Like, what is the positive affirmation? And it's been
Wow.
so eye-opening. And like, I talked to people and I was like, that you're going through that's because of this, and this is what's going on in your body. And it kind of it's also been such a tool for me to understand what is my body saying. And it's taken that like hypochondriac version of me to a space of like, okay, so there's like, I go back to everything is emotional. That's something that I strongly believe in. Even the things that we wouldn't think are emotional, it's like, yeah, emotional cause. There's something behind there. There's something to it. And we have the capacity, and like, we can use this as a tool to understand and learn what our body is saying when we have a headache, or when we have that like pain in our shoulder that's just not letting go, or we have that tightness in our chest. It's like, there's a purpose for it, and it takes hearing it, meeting it, sitting with it, sometimes being uncomfortable with it, um, to allow it to release, and also to start to write a new story of like, what is the positive affirmation? How am I going to see this from another perspective and allow the space to shift? And that's been very helpful.
That's amazing. We're gonna link both of those books in the show
Yeah.
notes if anyone is interested in getting them. I know
Yeah.
I am. Before we close, I would love to take a moment to just breathe. So close your eyes, and if you're listening, close your eyes. No one is watching you. Take a deep breath in and take your time exhaling, and we'll meet you right back in a moment. I am so grateful for this conversation. I love how honest it's been, and also in a way how like unfinished it's allowed to be. Like this is an ever evolving conversation because listening to our bodies is not like a stagnant, like there's one way to do it. There isn't. There's millions of ways to just
Yeah,
stop and listen.
everybody's communication is different.
Yeah, and there's something like comforting about not needing to land anywhere, like to just sit with what it's like to listen and hesitate and to try and stay connected to yourself through all of that. If you're listening and you're noticing things in your own body, you don't need to do anything with that. You can just notice that you're paying attention. Yita, thank you so much for joining us. This was
Thank
such
you for
an
having me.
enjoyable and beautiful conversation. Thank you for listening and being here with us, and we will sit together again soon. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation stayed with you, consider sharing it with another woman who might need it too. Until next time, trust your intuition, move gently, and take care of yourself. Good night, Mama.